Good morning. I realise I've got the desk slot before. There's some really nice cookies out there, so I'll be quick. So just to give you some background on us, we've been working with London Partners and Business Growth Profile for a number of years now, and we probably do 2 or 3 mentoring sessions every cohort with founders when they're looking particularly around investment and potentially taking on some money. So the background to us is we're an early stage venture capital firm based in Victoria. We've made about 30 investments in about 3 years, mainly within enterprise, AI, fintech, social impact and gaming. So what I think we've done slightly differently is we try to have a purpose and profit cause that we give a percentage of our carry profits, so our exit profits from each deal, back to founders' causes. So we pioneered this social impact, as it were. So what are my 5 lessons? Having worked across the road over there, some of you already know me actually, I've got some familiar faces. I think there's 5 things. It's probably too little, so I'm going to try and summarise it. But I think, how many of you are thinking about taking some money on, potentially? Quite a lot of you. How many of you first round checks or second round checks? Basically everyone. Okay, fine. Right, so please do connect with us. If I don't get a chance to talk to you, I will try and follow up. But I think the first thing that I think founders need to think about more than anything when they're coming to pitch to us is they really need to have a long-term mindset. So when you're taking any external capital from anybody, it's a long journey. And people think, you tell your investors, oh, it's going to be a 3-year, yeah, you're going to get 10 times multiple on your investment in our company. But it's a longer process. Statistically, you're more likely to be with that investor longer than you are married to your partner. So remember that when you're picking people. I think the smartest founders that we come across, they ask the intelligent questions like, let me speak to your founders. Let me speak to them, see what they say about you. Let me speak to a founder, a company that hasn't gone well in your portfolio to see how you dealt with that. It's a 2-way engagement. So I think you've got to go in with the mindset when you're raising some money that sometimes there might be a big check on the table, but actually, is that the right check for your business in the long term? Sometimes we've got a founder in our portfolio, he wanted to raise 200,000, but got a check within a week for a term sheet for 500,000, but he knew that actually that wasn't the right thing for his business at that time. So when you're particularly raising money, think about what you need to execute your business plan, not what sounds right, or your competitors are doing, or your industry peers are doing, or people within this cohort are doing. So I think the main thing with that is when you're approaching investment, really understand your business and think of the long-term perspective. Secondly, I would make sure the amount of founders that don't do research on their investors is incredible. I would say 90% of the people that come through the door and have a meeting with us do not understand our portfolio, don't understand what we invest in, don't understand where we invest, and VCs now particularly, and angels, are very good at putting out content about where they invest, what they like to. So for example, I put out a list the other day of all the books I like to read. So one of the founders that we've just actually given a term sheet to said, I read one of your books, and this is why I think that book relates to our company. So I see he's done some extra research above and beyond generic email or intro email. So make sure you understand what your investors invest in and the mechanics of their investing. Because if they have a fund, what they often would like to do is return their fund on your investment. So look at the mechanics behind that. If they're investing at X million, they will need to get to X million valuation to return their fund. So ask them, how big is your fund? How many investments do you make a year? It's always like a 2-way thing. So approach the meetings that you have in a systematic way. And I think one of the things that I think a lot of the best founders in our portfolio do is that every time they meet someone of any interest, they get them on a stakeholders list and they update them constantly. So every month I get maybe 3 or 4 emails from companies I'm not investing in, but I said I'm happy to be on your list because I find it quite interesting. And they say, we've got this client, we've built this new product. And one of the founders we've just invested in now, they were on our list for 4 or 5 months. And we realised, actually, they're making really good progress here, and we invested, we just literally closed the deal last week with them. So sometimes you need to constantly build up an ecosystem of stakeholders, which is very important. About the sorting out the basics, the amount of companies that, again, we see where don't have basics sorted out, they don't have their LinkedIn. The first thing we do is look at LinkedIn profiles. Are they a professional? Is your website secure? Have you put any effort above a Wix website and on your homepage and landing page? Brand is very important. That's the initial thing people are going to do, especially from an investor side. They're going to look at your website. They're going to look at your profile as a team. Often where we invest, it's very team focused. So I think you really just make sure that those things are presented well. Thirdly, I think an understanding of your market is very, very important. I think a lot of founders, often, these days, they see the likes of Mark Zuckerberg, etc., and say, look, we're just going to pack in EY over there and say we're going to start something, in fintech, which is great. But you've got to understand that, from our side of the point, having domain expertise really counts for a lot. And if you do not have it, which often a lot of people don't, is make sure you bring on the right team and advisory team. So one of the things I see a lot in startups, they raise a lot of money or are about to raise some money, and they hire people very quickly, and that is a big problem because basically that person has to be the right fit for your company. So we recommend our founders, and this has worked very well for our founders, is to make sure you do a lot of psychometric testing. Are they the right fit culturally for the team? So I think that's one of the things. So one of the quotes I would say is, hire slowly, fire less so, or fire quickly. So that works really well. The last thing I would say is, make sure the founders in our companies that have done well, got their Series A checks, are scaling very quickly, are extremely capital efficient. They understand the value of money, and they understand that they have to stretch every pound a long way. Where a lot of your businesses are, you've got to make sure that you're capital efficient. A lot of our companies in our portfolio now have UK and overseas presence to counteract that capital efficiency, web development, etc. So one of our companies in our portfolio, cost of development in the UK was 40k a month. They got down to 3k by doing that in India, and there was no productivity loss. So just understand that you're up against these kind of factors in fundraising, but make sure your pitch deck is right. Last point, sorry. Pitch deck is right, and make sure that it's succinct. And if anyone wants an example, come and speak to me afterwards of good pitch decks we've invested in. Investors have a attention span of 10 seconds, literally. We get 200 decks probably a week. So think about that from our point of view. You've got to make it really simple, and the proposition has to be clear. And there's a lot of branding people here. Go and speak to them and ask them who their graphic designers are for their decks. It's worth every penny, honestly. And the same with the financial model. So I only got 5 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up. I'm here in the break afterwards, so please do follow us on LinkedIn at RLC Ventures, and come and speak to me afterwards. Me and my team are around. Thank you.